Welcome back to For the Home Cook. Of course, we are trying to save money on our grocery bills, doing that by making some meals that are smarter and more cost effective. And of course, we talk about some staples that we can have in our meals that are really going to extend them, make them bigger and better. And I've got two recipes that are going to be meals that we can make in bulk, but that are going to be somewhat healthy and also cost effective. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is we're gonna make some sandwiches. So I love anything that you can do in a slow cooker. It saves you time. You can do it the morning of, by the time you get back from work or from school or from wherever you are, it's gonna be ready in a slow cooker. So this is called a slow cooker Italian beef sandwich. So what I've got in here, and I did this morning, I got about 3 pounds of chuck roast. Now, 2.5 to 3 pounds is going to cost you about 20 bucks. So here are some things that you can do. If you find a beef roast that's like a bottom round or one of those that maybe it's not the higher cut of a chuck roast, go ahead and buy it. Buy whatever is most cost effective to you. What I tell people all the time is look at the flyers for the stores that you shop at and look and see if they have deals, especially around the holidays or around the end of the year or the beginning of the year. They may have roasts on sale, and you could do this with a pork roast. It's not going to taste the same, but you may have the same kind of concept if you do that with a pork roast. But any kind of beef roast that you can get is what we're going to use in here. So I put that in my slow cooker, and then the recipe calls for 2 cans of French onion soup. Here's the thing, even the cheapest is going to cost you about 93 cents per can, but it also has beef stock in it. I didn't want to put that in here. So what I did is I just found these French onion soup packets. There were 2 in this box. It cost me less than $2. So I went ahead and got that. So I sprinkled that on top. We also got some Italian seasoning. This is a dressing that you would add and make an Italian dressing. We added that into the slow cooker as well. And then we've got some pepperoncinis. Now, here's the thing with those. Most of us have a jar of these inside of our refrigerator that we absolutely forgot about. And if you have that, go ahead and just take those out and throw the amount in there. If not, you can go buy them. I bought them whole and then I just sliced them up before I put them into the slow cooker. This one cost me less than $2, and everything else that I found that was already sliced or that was super hot were $3 and $4. So get these. All I did was take my kitchen scissors, cut into the top of this into little slices, leave the seeds out, and then you're good to go. So we did that, and then I also added in some Italian seasoning, and then that was it. So you let this go. It can go anywhere between 6 and 10 hours, depending on if you want to go on high or on low, but this has been going all day. So at that point, you're going to want to take your slow cooker and then start shredding up the meat that you have in there. Now, some of this meat, depending on what kind of cut that you get and the quality of it, may have some little pieces of like fat or gristle. Get those out, just take those out, put them inside of a bowl or on a plate, or throw them in the trash, however you want to do that. But go ahead and shred up everything else. So I just have 2 forks. Because this has been in here so long, it's going to shred up really, really easy. Like I said, you may have some pieces, like this is a piece of fat. Cool, we'll put that in a bowl. We won't serve that to our guests. You could take all of this out and inspect each and every little chunk of beef. But for the most part, if you go in here with your 2 forks, you're gonna be able to kind of feel if there are pieces like little chunks of gristle or of fat. And I love, you see this is on here, slow cooker liners. I love them because this, essentially if I don't kind of poke a hole in the bottom of this, I can lift this out and then throw it away and not make a big mess in my slow cooker and then have to go back and clean it. Obviously, I'll wipe it out with a wet paper towel with some soap on it, but I'm not going to have to get in there and remove a bunch of stuff that's stuck to the sides. So while we're doing that, I have some hoagie buns. Now, when you go to the store, there are actual hoagie buns. They cost $3 or $4 for like a pack of 6. But go look around in the bakery. At the end of the day, if you took hot dog buns, you could still do the same thing. You could take hamburger buns. I went over to the bakery section and got just some wheat, like sub rolls that you would make sub sandwiches with. They have wheat and they have white. Those are like $2, $2.50 for a pack of 6 instead of $3 or $4 for the actual quote unquote hoagie rolls. So just whichever one is the most cost effective for you. Okay, I think I pretty much got everything. Once you put this on your sandwich, if you're like, okay, that's a little weird, take it out. Nobody wants to kind of eat one of those little pieces of fat there. So I also put in a full onion on top of this and let it cook the whole time. That's not in the recipe. I like onions, I like caramelized onions, and so that's basically what we have in here. We have the beef, we have the caramelized onions, and then those pepperoncini little peppers. If for some reason you don't like the taste of those, you can obviously just leave them on top. Don't stir this at all, and then kind of move those off and kind of scoop them out before you shred up your beef. I like the taste of them. This is kind of like if you see like Mississippi pot roast, it's basically that same concept. All right, so I have my hoagie rolls here. Cheese-wise, there are different options on cheese. You can use mozzarella, you can use provolone, you can use shredded or sliced. It's whichever one is more cost-effective for you. So I think a 12 slice pack is like under $2. So is like the shredded cheese. So however that you want to do that. So you can do these in the pan, you can do these in the oven, you can broil them for a few minutes, but basically we're going to put down our cheese, and then we're going to put some beef on top and then let the cheese melt. So like I said, you can put this in the oven underneath the broiler for a few minutes, or you could put it in a pan and then flip it, put the top on after you put the beef, and then kind of do like a grilled cheese style of cooking. Whichever one of those makes sense to you. So then the best part about this is after we put on our beef, same thing. If you don't want the onions, if you don't want the peppers, cool, take them off. I like them. They add great flavor. So I'm going to leave them on there. So after this, once you get these served up, or if you just want to, there's a lot of juice in the bottom of this. That's basically like an au jus that you would use to dip a sandwich in anyway. So you can kind of strain that out into a bowl and then dip your sandwich in that if you want to. The only good and bad thing about the type of bread that you use is that if it is not toasted well, or if it is not sturdy enough, your liquid is going to obviously like come through. So just make sure when you're picking your bread, don't get like the thinnest bread that you can find. These sub rolls are pretty good about being sturdy, but you could also find something that is sturdier if you want to, or just cut back on, how much that you're putting inside of that sandwich. So here we go. That's a sandwich. The most expensive part of that is going to be your beef roast. So get what you can at the store. If you see that there's a good sale, go ahead and swipe one of those and then remember this recipe later. That way you can save yourself a little bit of money. But at the end of the day, if you just find kind of the cheaper cut, you're going to put it in the slow cooker. It's going to be in there for hours, so it's going to break down. It's going to be tender because you're going to leave it in there for like 6 to 10 hours. If you put it on low, the longer that you leave it, the more tender it's going to be. So if you can do it the night before and you put it on low, you can go 8 to 9 hours, depending on how big your roast is. And then you could go even longer than that if you wanted to, if you put it on low. So that's our first meal. Now our second one, I also love this concept of anything being on one sheet pan. What I mean by that is we're gonna put everything on this one sheet pan, cook it all at the same time, and then it's all gonna come out, in theory, all cooked within that certain amount of time. So this is gonna be a garlic parmesan chicken sheet pan. And what I have over here is we're gonna kind of cheat on our seasonings, and we're gonna let, the experts kind of do what we don't wanna do. So I've sprayed our pan with some nonstick cooking spray. And then for vegetables, this can be whatever is most affordable for you. So we've talked before about some of the vegetables that are really cost effective. So broccoli and carrots, cauliflower, things like that, very cost effective. Green bell peppers, onions, those are very cost effective. So we're gonna kind of use a mixture of that. But at the end of the day, it's all about what is most affordable to you. So go into the vegetable section, see what kind of looks good and what you would want to pair with chicken, and then just get that. So broccoli, super affordable. I've just cut up the broccoli. I've rinsed it and cut it up into kind of similar sized pieces. That's going to be the key in any sheet pan that you do. Everything needs to be kind of uniform in size, because you don't want your broccoli to burn and then your chicken not to be done, or your potatoes not to be done, and then everything else is kind of burning, waiting on 1 or 2 ingredients. So add about 2 heads of broccoli that I have in here. And then we are also going to, you can add an onion in there if you want to. You don't have to. You can add onion powder if you don't want onion. I like onion that has been like roasted in the oven. If you don't like that, you don't have to do that. So to that, I have some potatoes. Now the recipe is going to call for like baby yellow potatoes or baby red potatoes. Listen, I love those. I think they roast better than most potatoes, the smaller ones. But at the end of the day, those are $3 to $4 to $5, depending on what kind that you get, for about 2 pounds of potatoes. Whereas russet potatoes, which is what I have here, those are going to be cheaper, and you can cut those up smaller so that they will hopefully cook at the same time that you're cooking everything else. So we have those kind of in a uniform size, really thin, so that they'll cook within that 40 or 50 minutes that we're cooking everything. And then you can add it, like I said, you can add an onion in there if you want to. So our seasonings for this, we're going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to add just a little bit, drizzle some olive oil, or you can do vegetable oil, whatever oil that you have. And this is going to help cook everything in the oven. So we're just going to make sure that everything is coated. So to this, we're going to add some salt. I will tell you, because you have potatoes, you're going to add a little bit more than what you think you need in terms of salt. We're going to add some pepper. I really love pepper. If you don't love it, don't add as much as you're seeing me add right here. Obviously, I love garlic, so garlic is going in there. It looks like a lot, but this bowl is really, really big, and we're adding a lot of vegetables into here. So it looks like I'm adding a lot, but really we have a bunch to get to down to the bottom of this. I'm also going to add some paprika. Basically, at this point, you can season it however you would like. If you have a seasoning blend in the cabinet that you just really love, if you want to keep it simple, just do salt, pepper, garlic, onion. That's perfectly fine as well. And then we're going to add some Italian seasoning. I like this because this has pretty much all of our greens in there, in terms of like oregano and parsley and basil, all those sorts of things. And then this is like chicken bouillon. I like it. It adds some flavor. I'm not going to add too much, but it will help in terms of the salt content and just giving it just some extra flavor. All right, so while that's sitting there, I'm going to walk over here because I'm going to get some gloves so that when I'm messing with the chicken and with the vegetables, I don't have to wash my hands as often, but I will wash them. So when we talk about the chicken that we're using for this, at the end of the day, it's whatever you can afford. We've talked before about buying stuff in bulk in terms of like chicken and garlic and seasonings and stuff like that. So if you did that and you have some chicken breasts sitting in your freezer, or you have some chicken thighs or drumsticks, whatever that may be, just use whatever you have. You don't have to go by the recipe in terms of, oh, they said get this, that's what I have to get. It may adjust your cooking time just a little bit. But if you don't have anything in your freezer and you're like, what do I use? Chicken thighs are going to be your best option. They're going to be affordable. They're more affordable than chicken breast. And then depending on what kind that you get, you may have, the boneless, skinless chicken thighs, or just the boneless ones. Some of them have a little bone in. Those might be a little bit cheaper. But chicken thighs are really going to help in that cost factor. All right, so we're going to look at this. That looks seasoned to me. We're going to add this to our pan. Then we're going to spread this out. You want it to be in pretty much one layer. You don't want this to be too small of a pan because obviously you want everything to cook. So get a big pan if you can. If not, get 2 pans. Just make sure everything is kind of in a flat-ish layer. Okay, so now we're going to divvy out some places for our chicken. At the end of the day, you could put this on top of the vegetables and it would be fine. But we're just going to clear out just a little bit of space. And now we're going to do our chicken. I'm just going to use the same bowl. It still has some seasoning in it, but that's perfectly fine. All right, so like I said, chicken thighs is what we are using. These have the skin on them. They also have like a little bit of the bone on the back side of it. If you don't like that, absolutely get boneless, skinless, whatever looks good to you. You can use chicken breast, like I said. It'll change that cooking time, but you could still do that. These are pretty big, and this one only cost me about $6 for 4 pretty big chicken thighs. So just think about how many people am I trying to feed? Will that be enough for each of them? Okay. So I'm gonna put these in the bowl. You could do this on the pan as well, but we'll season it and then put it on the pan instead of putting it on the pan and trying to season everything and then move everything around. So for this, our seasoning is going to be super, super simple because Parmesan garlic wing sauce. So this you're gonna go find in the condiment section. If you get the off-brand, it's cheaper than the name brand, but Parmesan garlic wing sauce has all of the seasonings that we're gonna put on here. We're gonna mix that around, we're gonna put on here, and then we'll pop it in the oven. You're gonna go 400 degrees for 40 minutes. Now, obviously, you wanna check the chicken before you're like, 40 minutes is up, good to go. It may be a little bit less if we're talking chicken breast instead of chicken thighs. So just check it. If you say 40 minutes, I would at about 20, 25 minutes, just go and, take a meat thermometer and check the chicken just to make sure. If you're looking at this and you're like, ooh, that's got way too much like skin on the chicken thigh, then just cut that off. Cut out whatever you don't want before you put this in your pan. But literally, we're going to just coat that in that wing sauce. And then you don't want this to be completely flat, but you want it to be pretty flat so it can cook evenly with everything else. And it wouldn't be a terrible thing if you have some leftover seasoning to put this on the vegetables. It's only going to make everything better. So you could also scoop this out and kind of drizzle it over the top of your vegetables if you wanted to. I'm just going to scoop some of that on top of these. And then, like I said, so we've got the oven on 400. We're gonna let this go for about 40 minutes. Like I said, at about 20, 25 minutes in, go ahead and check your chicken, temp it, make sure that it's good to go. I'm gonna wash my hands. We'll take a break right quick, and when we come back, I will talk about some of the other ways that you can make these recipes even better and extend them, and also we'll take a look at what a sheet pan chicken Parmesan meal looks like. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Home Cook. So we have 2 different meals going. We had some Italian beef sandwiches in the slow cooker. Like I've said plenty of times before, I love anything in the slow cooker because you can put it in there in the morning, and by the time you get back at the end of the day, you've got a really, really great meal. We put that on some sub rolls that we toasted, put some cheese on it, and then we can dip that in the sauce that's in the bottom of our slow cooker if you want. So that's our first meal. Our second one was a garlic Parmesan sheet pan chicken. So I love anything where you can put it on one pan and call it good. So what you see here on my left, your right, is what it looks like before we put it in the oven. So of course we have our vegetables, whatever is most cost effective for you. And then we kind of coated those with some basic seasonings, put them on a sheet pan, and then we have some chicken thighs that we coated in a Parmesan garlic wing sauce. It's got all of the seasonings that you're gonna need. So we've got that in there, and then this will go in the oven at 400 for about 40 minutes. Like I said, check your chicken before you take it out. Make sure that you've hit that 165 degree mark. That may change a little bit just depending on what type of chicken that you use. So if you use chicken breast, maybe a little bit less versus chicken thigh. These aren't super big, so 40 minutes is gonna be good in terms of cooking those completely through. So we've got these out of the oven. And now we go, okay, so what do we do about serving it? A few things. One, you could literally just take this, put it in a pan and call it good. Or if you have maybe kids or people in your household that don't like chicken on the bone or chicken in general, you could pull those chicken thighs off and you could cut them up and then put them on top. I made just some basic white rice. You can put that on the bottom of your plate and then scoop up some chicken and some vegetables. Using rice is going to extend your meal a little bit further because you're not having to use so much of your vegetables and your protein. You're able to supplement that with rice, which is very cost effective. So all I'm doing here is once I take it out of the oven, I'm just putting some Parmesan cheese over the top. That is an added, you don't have to do that. Parmesan cheese, this type right here is $1.97. So if you don't want to use that amount of money, you don't want $2 more to go onto your grocery bill, you could absolutely just leave it without. If you have the Parmesan, the shaker container that's in your fridge, use that instead. It does not make a difference. It just adds to the flavor because we already have that Parmesan garlic on the chicken thighs. So just kind of adds to that flavor. All right, so I'm just gonna serve this up just so you can see what it looks like. But this is such a great meal. This one is more cost effective than that one over there because chicken thighs are very cost effective. These vegetables are very cost effective. We use russet potatoes instead of baby potatoes. And so you can get a lot of food. If you look at this is a lot of food. Obviously you have one chicken thigh per person if you're doing a family of 4. But you could also just buy some more chicken thighs and then feed even more people. You could also take, like I said, you could take the chicken thighs off and cut them up so everyone kind of gets their allotted amount instead of just one chicken thigh. If you have people that are weird about chicken and cutting into chicken, these do have like a little bit of the bone. You can see that right there. It's the bone-in chicken thigh. So just make sure if you do that, obviously don't eat that part. You can also just cut it out so nobody does eat that part. But we've got this meal. All of these recipes are below. Like I said, this one is a little bit more expensive because of the cut of roast that we got. But if you have one in the freezer, or if you find one that's on special, or you find one that's kind of a lower cut, that's going to be a little bit less. 3 pounds of chuck roast could run you anywhere between like $17 to $20. That's going to be the most, but this one is going to make a lot. So even if you have leftovers, you could put this in the freezer, you could bring it back out, make more sandwiches or make more whatever you want with this roast. So recipes are below. And of course, this show is all about saving money on that grocery bill as our budgets get tighter and as things get just a little bit more expensive. So we've got plenty of episodes and all sorts of recipes that you should try. And for now, we will say goodbye, but we'll see you next time on For the Home Cook.